much. Let me yield to Mr. Good. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Segura, we have surrendered operational control of our border to Mexican crime cartels. This has been willful, it's been intentional, it's been purposeful by this administration. I continue to just be baffled by my friends across the aisle. Do they live in a fantasy land, in a land of denial, and pretend that it's not happening at the border, that the statistics coming from the administration, that there's been 3 million illegal crossings in a year and a half that are encountered by Border Patrol before they're released, the majority of them, into the interior of our country, and then some 800,000 criminal gotaways, the ones who don't want to be taken into our social services, free health care, free education, free travel, with no requirement to appear in court. That 800,000, which I submit we will not know the full extent of the harm of those until eventually, when we seal the border, whether we cut off funding in 23, when we will absolutely have control of this Congress because American people are rejecting these policies, or when we have the presidency as well in 25 and we can seal the border, then I think those who, the most devious actors will then begin to unleash their fury within the country when the border is secure. Why would they do it now when the border is open and their friends are coming across, and this administration, this majority, apparently does not care. And so while that's going on, at the same time, you know, and of course, record number in May, we had 240,000 illegal crossings that we know, the ones who were encountered. That doesn't count, again, the gotaways that are some estimated in the neighborhood of 15,000 a month or something like that. 10,000 a day now being apprehended, we're told, or encountered. Apprehended sounds like we're turning them back. We're not releasing most of them in the interior of the country. At the same time, and this ties into the H2 discussion, we're growing the welfare state. We have, and as an Assistant Secretary of Labor, I know you can appreciate this, we're growing the welfare state. We've removed the work requirements for subsistence. We're paying more people not to work. We're paying for housing. We're giving more provisions to folks who are not working, making them comfortable doing so. The labor participation rate is down. We've got 10 million open jobs in this country. And despite the Democrat majority's contempt for employers, contempt for small business owners, and their belief that left to themselves, their own devices, they would exploit and abuse their employees, they believe that about H-2As as well. I have met with many farm groups. I've visited many farms and agriculture employers in my district, and they treat these H-2A workers like family. There's a close relationship. Many of them have been working there for 20, 30 years and so forth. But I would submit it as a less than ideal situation. My question for you, with the 2 minutes that I have remaining, what can be done, as a former Assistant Secretary of Labor, what can be done to get more Americans working again? What can be done to reverse the decrease in the labor participation rate and incentivize and get more Americans working to fill these jobs so we don't have to rely on H-2 workers?
Congressman, that's a great question, probably the most difficult question anybody's going to be asked today. That is something that has stumped social scientists and economists and policymakers in this body and throughout the city and the country. There is undoubtedly a crisis in this country with regard to labor and people who want to work. There are some 12 million jobs available that go unfilled every month. Certainly employers who rely on these programs are frustrated. It used to be that they would get a few U.S. workers who would apply and would work part of the time or a few days and then ultimately quit. Now employers report they can't get any applicants at all. And I, unfortunately...
Where did all the people go?
It's a great question, and how do they survive day to day, and how do they pay their bills? I don't have the answer to that question. I wish I did. And I don't know who does have the answer to the question, but there is certainly a failure of policy at the local level, state level, federal level, perhaps all of the above, that has created a situation where evidently millions of Americans feel that they don't need to work. And I don't think that that's a good place for America, and it's certainly not a good place for American farms. We're at a crisis on our farms today, and it'll be another generation, and we won't produce our own food. It's going to be produced abroad because some food and some crops require hand labor. And if there's not the labor in this country to do it, it can and is done now south of the border. And personally, I'd rather have my food grown in the United States where I know what's sprayed on it, how it's harvested, and can track the supply chain. And
Well said. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. Representative Steele, you are recognized for 5 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. According